Andrew, you talked about global reaction, and there was some today. We assumed, same time yesterday, that, hey, England at least is with us. Cameron's already pledged his support, and he got an embarrassing rebuke in Parliament.
And let's start right there, Rich, because we did hear from the British yesterday, and British Prime Minister David Cameron pushed for Parliament's backing and was rejected. Here he is explaining his position, but also his reaction to that vote.
Well, I have a very strong view that we need to take a tough and robust approach around the world to an appalling war crime that's taken place in Syria. Parliament spoke, and Parliament, I think, made a very clear view, which it doesn't want British involvement in military action, so we will proceed on that basis.
And so that pretty much tying Cameron's hands. Can anybody remember the last time we didn't have Great Britain on our side for a military intervention? As for the rest of the world, Russia and China are calling for political solutions only and opposing military action. That's why, as Rich explained, the UN isn't likely because either one could veto a Security Council action. France actually supports military action but has yet to agree to use its own troops or weaponry.
Shocker.
Germany supports a UN military response but opposes a US-led response. Iran, no surprise, Syria's closest ally, they've threatened to retaliate against Israel specifically if Syria is attacked. And this one I found interesting. Both Jordan and Saudi Arabia privately support U.S. military action against Syria. Both countries believe the Assad regime has spiraled out of control. That's threatening them and their security and the region. But publicly, they're in a tough spot. They're both pushing for diplomacy only. They don't want to do anything to upset interests across the Arab world, Rich, because that could bleed into their own borders.
And then just if you want to complicate it even further, Dominic, as we've learned in Egypt and other hotspots, you get rid of a bad guy. Whether it was you get rid of Gaddafi, you get rid of Mubarak, what happens afterwards could potentially, if not probably in this case, be even worse. We already know there's Al-Qaeda elements in some of the resistance. Now, you can't just throw a whole blanket over, all the groups and say it's so complicated in Syria, but you could easily see a situation where the regime's toppled and you have ethnic cleansing. You have Christians that are petrified right now in Syria. If Assad goes away, all of a sudden centuries of hatred will spill out onto the streets here. So there's just no easy answers.
A domino effect. Well, one thing starts another, and that's why I believe this administration, we have to keep in mind how this man was elected to the White House. That is President Obama, and that is his opposition to the war in Iraq.
He's a reluctant warrior.
He's a reluctant warrior. And so, the point that you made with the Marine, I enjoyed listening to the conversation. And I think most people agree with him. Don't want to get involved, but once you're involved, the term you just used, it may not be a neat box.
But let me point out the argument that Congressman Engel gave us yesterday when we were talking. What if we do nothing? Yep. I mean, first of all, the situation in Syria deteriorates even further, and Assad continues to use chemical weapons, and that's bad. But what does that message send to any other country or any other despot around the world who might have chemical or other weapons of mass destruction in their stockpile?
Well, let me ask that question.
Whether to use
I think it's an excellent question. Let's ask that question to our callers. Let's go to Chris, who's calling us out of Huntington Station. Chris, what about that? What if basically we do nothing? We talked a good game, but at the end of the day, we don't push the trigger, we don't fire tomahawks into Damascus, and we say never mind. Do we send a message to the world here that, you know what, we talk a good game, but at the end of the day, we didn't have the stomach for the fight?
I think everybody in the world knows America has plenty of stomach for the fight. I need to see more proof that, as horrific as those images are, that people were attacked and they're suffering. My heart goes out to them. That has nothing to, there's no proof that the American interests are in dire danger. I think this is just more the same old political system doing the same old thing, trying to raise the war and take the attention off what's going on at home where the focus needs to be.
She's not the only one who said that one. I don't buy it. There's no political upside here. I think a throwaway line that the president said, which chemical weapons are a bright red line, coupled with the fact that from the briefings that you see, we've seen the images, the three of us, maybe many of you at home have as well. It's hard to stomach it when you know how horrible a guy. And there is uncontrovertible evidence that, in fact, they declassified some of the intelligence, intercepted phone calls, etc. They had their fingerprints, the Assad regime, on what happened to their own people here. So you're dealing with not only a madman, but you're dealing with someone who completely violated international law and violated our clear line to say, this isn't our fight, we're not going to get involved, but if you go here, you're now overstepping a line. If not us, then who? I guess, Chris, would be the question. But you can hear it in the voices tonight, Dominic. People have just said, enough, you know?
You can't blame them, Richard. I mean, look at what the country has gone through, being our country. Look at the conditions in our country, how rough it is for many Americans across the country. They can't pay their mortgages, can't put food on the table, can't send their kids to the schools that they want to.
Tomahawk's going to change it one way or the other in terms of somebody making their mortgage payments.
Valid point, but Americans, based on polling and these phone calls, don't want to even take that chance of getting involved. We don't have the resources to police the entire world.
How many lawmakers in Wickard say we don't have the money for food stamps? You know, how many food stamps can you buy with one Tomahawk missile?
How many of those same phonies, right?
No, I agree that they're phonies with that argument, but how many food stamps do you buy with Tomahawks? How many people's mortgages you pay off with, you know, the assault that we're going to spray on Damascus?
The conversation, everyone, we're having tonight, me and my friends here at the table, and you in your dining room or living room or den, wherever you're watching the show, is the conversation as a country that we're going to be having, trust me, not just here at the end of August, but for the coming years. There are no more superpowers other than us. There is no appetite around the world here to go nation building, let alone to go police other affairs. But at the same point, when human atrocities happen and everyone turns to the United States, do we just basically say, not my problem? It's not a simple question. I'm oversimplifying the debate, but that's where we are. Phone lines jammed. When we come back after the break, I'll head right back to them. We'll also tell you what lawmakers in America are saying as well. You see our question and our toll-free number. We'll be right back.